listen.
Welcome to the 5-Pack, where we talk about the 5 things that matter, 5 things that will matter, and a daily pack rip. Here is your host, Kyle Elfrink.
Welcome to Friday. Welcome to the 5-Pack. Kyle Elfrink hanging out with you here on the Better Sports Network. You have landed in the spot where each and every day, 12 o'clock Eastern, we get rolling with 5 things that matter right at this very moment. Get you set for the night or the weekend to come with 5 things that will matter. And of course, we have the end of the show, Pack Break. And we've been doing this now for a number of months, and we have yet to ever open or come across today's pack. Today's pack is the premiere edition, the 1992 premiere edition of the Donruss Triple Play. Now, I in the deep recesses of my mind, I kind of recall this set, but I don't really know what made it a triple play. I looked it up. This was a card set, and we'll go through it coming up in a bit. This was a card set that was kind of geared to the younger collector, kids between like 8 and 12. So there's a lot of uniqueness in this fact. I think there are even cards in here, and we may get one of them because this sucker is 40 cards thick. I don't know how we're going to get through 40 cards at our pack break. Usually they're 15 cards. But there are cards in this set, which is about 270 cards big. There are cards in this set that feature current 1992 Major League Baseball players, but it has photos of them as a kid. So maybe we'll get a young Ken Griffey Jr. or a younger Ken Griffey Jr., maybe a young Darryl Strawberry. Who knows? Cal Ripken Jr., We'll see what we get coming up later in the show, the Donruss Triple Play. Like I said, 40 cards, so wish me luck. I may have to shut up right now just to have a chance of getting through all 40 cards. I want to thank our producer, Heather Klein, for helping us out all week long. Great job by her. And now we're going to put her to work because it is time for the 5 things that do matter as we sit here on a Friday, as we get rolling here on the 5-Pack. And let us begin with some U.S. Open golf, shall we? We got you set for it yesterday. Now, we thought that this LA Country Club, which the PGA has never been to, it's been around for over 100 years. PGA's never been there, U.S. Open or otherwise. We thought this was going to be a tough course. After all, the reputation of any course that the U.S. Open goes to is it's difficult. It's like a battle just to get to par. That was the expectation on Thursday. That was not the result on Thursday. We had a lot of low scores on day one of the U.S. Open. None were lower than what Rickie Fowler and Xander Schauffele put up.
Got it again. This time from the Barranca originally.
Similar length putt as the last one, but he goes up the slope.
Oh, Xander. That was screaming 3 putts, and he steals 1 out of it. 3 birdies in 5 holes, and he's within 1. Rickie Fowler makes history at LA Country Club. It is the lowest round we have ever seen at a U.S. Open. Rickie Fowler's made history. Xander Schauffele has matched him.
20 minutes apart, that history. 62 had never been shot ever in a round at the U.S. Open. Fowler does it. And then Xander Schauffele follows again about 20 minutes later. That ties, by the way, a 62. That ties the all-time lowest round score for any major round. Round 2 beginning today. We'll see how many people can shoot into the 60s. I think yesterday we have a half dozen golfers who were 65 or lower. That is a single round record at the U.S. Open. So this course on Thursday played easy. I know it's not easy, but played easy. Today, and this is kind of the beauty of golf, kind of a cool thing of golf. For those who don't know or don't follow this sport, each and every day they change where the hole is. you play the same hole 1, 2, 3, and 4 and all that stuff, but you switch where the flag stands. So you can move that around the greens, if you will. So they've done that for today, probably with the idea that we need to make this more difficult. The other thing to keep in mind, and this is kind of a golf nature thing, it's clear, it's hot, it's warm, there's no rain. Those fairways, those greens will all get a bit faster as we go through the weekend. So something to watch. As for Fowler and Schauffele, they're not by any means running away with it. I mean, right now, Dustin Johnson's 2 shots back. Rory McIlroy is 3 shots back. Tee times today, Ricky Fowler, 4:32 Eastern, if you want to watch him. Xander Schauffele, 4:54 Eastern. Current odds, and they are underway in round 2, but the current odds to win the tournament, Schauffele is at plus 320. McIlroy is actually the second pick. He's at plus 500. Then we get to Scotty Scheffler and Fowler. They are at plus 650, and Dustin Johnson lurking at plus 850. Again, round 2 is underway. They've been golfing now for about 2.5 hours, but the big names will go off later today out in LA. Well, let's move from the West Coast to the Midwest. Let's go to item number 2 of what does matter. And don't look now. Talked about a lot of teams here on the 5-pack. We talked about good teams, bad teams. I don't know if we've ever really given any pro or con on the Chicago Cubs, but don't look now. Here come the Cubbies. In fact, last night, the Cubs completed a 3-game home sweep of a first-place team. Now, that first-place team is Pittsburgh, but it's still a 3-game sweep of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Here's how they went about that 3rd straight win over Pittsburgh.
Line drive, base hit. In to score is Hap Swanson gliding into 3rd. Bellinger races for 2nd. And Belly's given the team the lead. It's 3-2 Cubs. Line drive off the glove of Hayes. And it rolls out into left. In to score Swanson. Whoa. Running out in front of the plate. And get another run home. And now racing for 3rd, Morel, and he gets there. Great job by Nick Madrigal. And on the ground to short. Bobbled. And everybody's safe. Run in. And it's 6-2.
That didn't look like the first place Pittsburgh Pirates. It kind of just looked like the Pittsburgh Pirates. Cubs go on for a 7-2 victory. Marquee Network providing the highlights there. Cubs are looking better. Now, here's the thing, and I don't know if this is a positive with the NL Central or a negative. The Cubs are only 3.5 games out in the NL Central. Now, they are in 4th place, 3.5 games out, and they are 3.5 games out despite a record of 31-37. The NL Central, how we love you. Christopher Morel, really good in the last week. You saw him there in the highlights. He got a couple of home runs, 8 ribbies, 5 runs scored, so he's been big. Bellinger, you saw him there in the highlights. He's back in the outfield. Good to see him. And they've got, I will say, the Cubs, to me, have a solid enough offense to actually kind of win this thing. And when I say win this thing, I'm talking the NL Central. Bellinger and Ian Happ and Seiya Suzuki has looked better. You've got Dansby Swanson. Nico Hoerner's having a really solid season. Really what it's going to come down to with the Cubs is pitching. Now, Marcus Stroman's been great. Justin Steele, who's currently on the IL, has been good. To me, this comes down to 2 veteran pitchers, Kyle Hendricks and Drew Smyly. Hendricks has only made 4 starts this year. He missed about the first month and a half with an injury, but he has looked good in those 4 starts. And then Drew Smyly is just a guy who never leaves, but he's actually been pitching well for the Cubs. Hendricks is going to be pitching today. Cubs have an afternoon affair against the Baltimore Orioles. That'll be a fun one. 2:20 with the first pitch today. I will note, if you go over to the DraftKings Sportsbook, and we've been updating you on these futures odds really throughout the history of the show here, talking about the NL Central. Milwaukee consistently is the top pick in the NL Central. The Cubs now are up to number 2 as the pick to win the NL Central. And right now you can get them to win the division at plus 500. And they are plus 425 to make the playoffs. I said this a couple of weeks ago. I'll say it again. If you are a wagering and gambling man or woman, you take the 500, because whoever finishes second in the NL Central, they're not making the playoffs. Right now, everybody's sitting at like 500 or lower. So again, I don't know if it's exciting or boring or kind of a joke. We have a chance, a real chance, and I'll talk about this later, that we could have an under 500 team make the Major League Baseball playoffs, which of course has never been seen, but you've expanded the field. Central divisions are kind of junk. The schedule allows it to happen. So we shall see. But the Cubbies are ascending, only 3.5 back as they get set for the Orioles later this afternoon. Let us stay with baseball, but let's go off the field. The Oakland A's. We love talking Oakland A's baseball, right? Well, the winning streak is over. They lost again yesterday to the Tampa Bay Rays. Congratulations to Tampa, by the way. They're the first team in Major League Baseball this season to get to 50 victories. 50-22 is that record for the Tampa Bay Rays. As for the Oakland A's, this could be the final year, believe it or not, in Oakland. There is a chance it could be the final year. Even though the lease goes through 2024, there is at least the thought that maybe the A's close it down this year. Maybe they go to Sacramento to play some baseball next season. They may go to AAA Las Vegas and play at their ballpark beginning next season. I bring all this up because the Nevada State Legislature and the governor have all signed off and approved $380 million going towards the, I think it's $1.3 billion stadium that they're going to build on the Las Vegas Strip. I saw today, by the way, that Las Vegas, the land that the A's are using, it's not just $380 million in tax money. Vegas is giving the Oakland A's the land for free. That land is worth about $200 million. So there's another carrot that the A's are getting in Vegas. So this thing is looking more and more official with the legislature there in Nevada, with the governor. Now, baseball owners are going to have to sign off on this. It's not expected to be too difficult. The other 29 voters will probably, or the other 29 owners will probably vote on the possible move in the next few months or so, and then it'll be official. Yesterday, Rob Manfred, the commissioner, he was at the owners meeting in New York City, and of course, he met with the assembled media. And as you might expect, a lot of the questions, a lot of the discussion was about the imminent move of the A's to Las Vegas. And here's what the commissioner had to say about the situation with Oakland.
Hear from them. You know, I feel sorry for the fans in Oakland. I do not like this outcome. I understand why they feel the way they do. I think that the real question is, what is it that Oakland was prepared to do? There is no Oakland offer. Okay, I mean, they never got to the point where they had a plan to build a stadium at any site. And it's not just John Fisher. You don't build a stadium based on the club activity alone. The community has to provide support. And, you know, at some point you come to the realization it's just not going to happen.
Did you watch the A's game on Tuesday when the fans came out for the reverse boycott?
I was actually at a dinner with the owners.
Did you read the coverage?
I did.
I
saw
your impression of that?
You know, I mean, it was great. It's great to see what is this year, you know, almost an average Major League Baseball crowd in the facility for one night. That's a great thing.
The commissioner has received a lot of criticism for that last thought. I'm not going to be one of them. I appreciate real talk. And everybody's like, oh, he's so mean to the Oakland fans. Commissioner Manfred. So come on, tell me the truth. Stop babying us. I have no problem with the commissioner saying, oh yeah, man, that big crowd Oakland had, that's an average Major League fan base. I will note to the commissioner, though, the proposal in Vegas, that stadium only holds 30K. So you almost have to have a sellout to get the average. That's really weird to me. Like, on one hand, I get it. 30,000. Baseball stadiums are trending that direction. We used to get like 50, 60,000 behemoths. Now we're seeing in the low 40s, even the mid 30s. We're getting 30,000 at this stadium in Vegas, which is interesting. And the other thing, and again, you know, I know we've only been doing this for a few months here on the 5-Pack, but me personally, I have gone to that stadium in Oakland 3 or 4, maybe 5 times. Love it. It brings me back. to what I grew up with. It's a dump, but it brings me back. The fan base is great. They make a lot of noise there in Oakland. Okay. And I've been to numerous Oakland games. I enjoy the team. I love the uniform get-ups, all that stuff. I'm an Oakland guy. I like it. But I will say this. Everybody's like, well, the city of Oakland would support the A's if they were just good. And they'll say, well, look back to the 80s, which, hey, 35 years ago, we shouldn't be saying, oh, wow, look at when the 80s were good with La Russa, McGuire, and Canseco. People came to the 35 years ago. That's ancient history. Doesn't really matter to today. So if you look more recently, look at the last 6 years that Oakland made the playoffs. Because people say, well, they don't come out because the team's not trying, the team isn't winning, okay? So let's look at the last 6 years that Oakland made the playoffs. Now, one of them was in 2020. That was the COVID year. There were no fans, okay? So nobody came to the games. The other 5 years, the last 5 years, and I'm just going to throw this out there because everybody's like, oh, well, the fans are being so mistreated. They would support a winning team. The other 5 years that they've made the playoffs had a winning team. Here's where they finished just in the American League out of 15 teams, just in the American League for attendance. 10th, 13th, 10th, 9th, and 12th. Winning teams, playoff teams. That was the yearly attendance. Reason? Sure. But don't give me this junk like, man, if Oakland would just win 88, 90 games, they'd be bringing in 3 million. They wouldn't. Those winning years are bringing in 2 million. So, hey, I don't like it. I'd rather have the Oakland A's instead of the Las Vegas A's. I would. I think it's stupid to be playing baseball in Las Vegas. But just watch who you trust on that whole, well, if they had a winning team, last times they've had the winning team, they haven't come out. So, and you can say, well, they sucked early on, they were good late, however you want to break it down, but the numbers are the numbers, and you can spin them the way you'd like. Let's go to item number 4 of what matters on this Friday, and this is actually breaking news this morning. We have received word courtesy of, I think it was The Athletic who broke the story, maybe ESPN, but it appears that Ja Morant of the Memphis Grizzlies has received a 25-game suspension courtesy of NBA Commissioner Adam Silver. Now, you might recall, what was it, about a month ago? There was a social media posting, and it appeared that Ja Morant was flashing a firearm. That would make now 2 social media postings in the last 3 months where he's flashed a firearm. For the first one, he got an 8-game suspension. This one is going to be 25 games. Now, what does that mean? This will begin next season, game number 1. They only play, 82 games? So you're missing like 30% of the season. If you look at the game checks that Ja Morant will miss out on, you're talking about $10 million of his contract. So this hits you in the wallet. It hits you on the court, kind of brings you undue attention. Now, he said everything right on the first suspension. Oh, I've learned it. He didn't. He just didn't. And there's probably a lot of things going on that I don't know about, you don't know about, none of us know about. Off the court, maybe even on the court, with Ja Morant. Who knows? But 25-game suspension, it's out. That's certainly going to hinder the Grizzlies going into next season. They're already trying to catch the Denver Nuggets. Now you're not going to have your star player. And for Morant, again, where does his career go from here? Obviously, it's at a crossroads. And, in effect, just stay off social media. Like, again, another example. Do we need more examples out there of how social media ruins careers and does not make careers? Well, who knows? I guess it makes a few careers, but Ja Morant, because of social media, let's see, he missed out on about a $40 million incentive last season because of missing the All-NBA team. He would have made the All-NBA team if he had just stayed off social media. The way his contract was written up, he missed out on like 40 million extra bucks. Now you're going to lose another 10 million just next season. So enjoy your social media, Ja Morant and everybody else. But a 25-game sit down for Ja Morant. Now let's stay in the world of basketball. Ja Morant, of course, had a shoe just released about 2 months ago by Nike. That shoe has been pulled off the shelves. Ja Morant was seen as kind of like the next big name that Nike was going to bombard us with. Of course, the first ever big name that Nike bombarded us with was MJ, Michael Jordan. You might have heard of him, right? News coming today that yesterday at an auction, a pair of game-worn Michael Jordan shoes from the infamous flu game back in let me make sure I got this right, 1997, Game 5 of the NBA Finals. Bulls were on the road in Utah. Michael Jordan scored 38 points. Bulls got the victory. Eventually, they go on to win the NBA title. You see Scottie Pippen helping Michael Jordan off the court after the flu game. There's Steve Kerr in the background as well. Well, the shoes that Michael Jordan wore in this game were put up for auction yesterday, and they sold for $1.38 million. Now, this got me interested in looking some things up. First off, the flu game. Do you realize he didn't even have the flu when he wore these shoes? He actually later revealed it was food poisoning from pizza. Which, what kind of pizza? I mean, my God, what kind of pizza? I mean, the thing's cooked at 400 degrees. What kind of food? Anyway, so food poisoning, not a flu game. $1.38 million, and you see the shoes there. Those are Air Jordan 12s, I am told. You see the shoes there. They were originally given to the Jazz ball boy, Preston Thomas, the night of that game. There was some kind of relationship with Jordan and Preston Thomas. Like over the years, Preston Thomas had always been a good guy to Jordan, but he was ball boy. He was given these shoes. Now, Preston Thomas is not the individual who sold these shoes at auction yesterday. Instead, Preston Thomas was given these shoes, autographed by Michael Jordan, had a photo and everything of it being autographed. He was given these shoes in 1997. He then sold the shoes in 2013, and he made $100,000. $100,000. He probably thought, oh, this is great. Today, they go for $1.4 million. Bad move, Preston. Bad move. Held on to him for 16 years, got $100,000. If he had held on to him for 10 more years, he'd held on to him for 26 years, $1.4 million. Sorry, Preston. I guess you take what you can get and you don't worry about the could-have-beens. The other thing with this, and this kind of speaks to the collectibles industry, certainly with shoes, the $1.38 million given for those Air Jordans from the flu game yesterday, that is not near the record for a pair of Air Jordans. Earlier this year, Game 2 of the 98 finals, which was the year after the flu game, it was also the final year of that Bulls dynasty. They won the title in 98. A pair of game-worn NBA Finals shoes by Michael Jordan in 98. That went for $2.2 million. Where does it go from here? Who's got those, Game 4, Game 5 shoes from 98? Who's holding on to those? Maybe it's Michael Jordan. I don't know. Speaking of Jordan, some other news coming out today in the NBA. Jordan, who is the majority owner, by the way, of the Charlotte Hornets. He's been the majority holder for, I think, 13 years. Word coming today that he is selling his stake in the Charlotte Hornets. He will still have a minority share. He will still be in the front office, but he is selling his stake. And you always want to see, well, how much money is he getting? 13 years ago, when he bought a majority, pretty well bought the Hornets, he paid $180 million. We're hearing reports that as he sells the stake, the majority stake on the Hornets, he is getting a valuation on that franchise of $3 billion. So he bought it for $180 million. 13 years later, it's worth $3 billion. Preston Thomas, man. Everybody's smart except Preston Thomas, that ball boy. Jordan from 180 to $3 billion. He's still going to stay on hand with the Hornets. We are hearing, too, Charlotte, who NBA drafts next Thursday. Charlotte has the number 2 pick. There are rumors circulating that perhaps the Hornets will trade that number 2 pick to New Orleans in exchange for Zion Williamson, who grew up. He was born and raised in North Carolina. Purely rumor. We don't know if the Pelicans want to do it. We don't know if North Carolina or Carolina wants to do it. But that is one thing that is percolating, giving up that number 2 pick to bring in the oft-injured Zion Williamson. Okay, those are the 5 things that matter on this Friday morning. Let's take a breather here. When we return, the 5 things that will matter as you go into your Friday and beyond. We'll give you that next, coming up on the Better Sports Network.
If you're a Giant fan, I wouldn't worry about number 26, as I dropped off my youngest son Gregory at school today, and he was sporting his Saquon Barkley jersey. I do believe the former Penn State star and current Giant star is going to be there week 1 for Big Blue. Why do I have that confidence? Because Saquon wants to be a Giant, and the Giants understand the importance of Saquon Barkley, not only to this offense, but to this entire organization on the field and off the field. He is as clean of a prospect as was coming out of Penn State, and he has been, outside of injury, an unbelievable New York Giant, and he deserves to get paid, and I think ultimately he will. The deadline is July 17th to get that long-term deal done. Even if that long-term deal doesn't get done, I think Saquon Barkley will learn by the failure of Le'Veon Bell, who decided to sit out and not sign the franchise tag with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and his career was never the same. Ultimately, though, I do think a long-term deal will get done. Ultimately, Saquon Barkley will be back in the Giants' backfield in 2023 doing what he always does when healthy, and that is produce. Make sure to check out the comments below for a special offer from our friends at Fantasy Alarm.
Welcome back to the 5-Pack. Next up, the 5 things that will matter. Here's Kyle Elfrink.
Welcome you back in. Got a little baseball, a little football all coming your way in our 5 things that will matter. Before we get to that, we've been telling you about it all week. Here's another reminder that the Fantasy Alarm Fantasy Football Draft Guide is out. It has been released. You can go over to fantasyalarm.com right now, and you can secure all the insight, knowledge, and analysis, the big help you need to make this year a winning fantasy season. You can have that a few different ways. Quite simply, you can go and just say $26.99, boom, I'll pay for it, boom, full access, I got it. The other way, and this might be the better way, honestly, go to fantasyalarm.com and sign up for either a monthly or a yearly all-pro subscription, which opens up the entire website to you, football and all the other sports as well. Plus, when you have that all-pro subscription, you get the draft guide for free. It's totally in your hands. Also over at Fantasy Alarm, they have the 7-day trial where you can kick the tires on the all-pro subscription. So do check it out. Again, that draft guide available right now as we get set for the upcoming football season. Still to come, we will open up some Donruss Triple Play. Look at that, CD Lamb there on the cover. Donruss Triple Play coming your way. 40-card jumbo pack. I was looking at this during the break. There is a triple play game card. So I guess we're going to play a game maybe when we open this thing up. I have no idea what these cards look like. I remember hearing about them, but I'm oblivious after that. So we'll all enjoy it together coming up in just a few. Before we get to that, though, we have the 5 things that will matter as we get rolling on this Friday. Let's start in the world of baseball. We were talking about the Chicago Cubs and the NL Central. It's a very messy race. Literally all 5 teams are in it. Literally all 5 teams are probably at best average baseball teams. Well, tonight we begin a 3-game showdown between first place Pittsburgh and second place Milwaukee. Oh yeah, first place versus second place. If we're going to get excited about that in the AL West or the NL East, we got to get excited about this one. It begins tonight. We've got the Pirates and the Brewers. What are the records here, by the way? First place, Milwaukee comes into this, or excuse me, first place, Pittsburgh, 34-33. So they're at least over 500. Second place, Milwaukee, 34-34. I was looking at the Brewers. We've talked a lot about Pittsburgh. I was looking at the Brewers and their statistics earlier this morning. They literally have one hitter who is more than 10% above a league average hitter. That's Christian Yelich. I think he's at like 118. So he's 18% better than the average major league. That's it. One guy. Pittsburgh, on the other hand, has 6 hitters that are better than 10% better than the average hitters. So kind of interesting there. Now tonight, and this kind of speaks to both teams, pitching pairing. Well, tonight, Rich Hill against Julio Teheran. Rich Hill's 43 years old. We know about Rich Hill. Julio Teheran, there's a lot of people hearing that name, and you're probably wondering, wait, he's still in baseball? I thought he retired like 3 years ago. No. Julio Teheran is still with us. He's actually in his early 30s, by the way, too. He's not all that old. He's like literally a dozen years younger than Rich Hill. So that is our pitching pairing tonight at 8:10. Tomorrow, 4:10, for this epic Pirates-Brewers showdown. It's going to be Keller against Miley. Sunday, they get going at 2:10 in the afternoon. Luis Ortiz against Freddie Peralta. Coming into this series, which opens tonight, the last 3 weeks, the Pirates have been 9-9. And over the last 3 weeks, the Milwaukee Brewers have been 7-11. And obviously, Pittsburgh, what was it, a few weeks ago, maybe about 3-4 weeks ago, they fell to 500. I remember they had that series in San Francisco. And here on the 5-pack, I said, it's kind of fun while it lasted. April was exciting, but May's gonna chew up the Pirates. Well, it didn't. Like I said, they're a 500 team. They're still in first place. They are back, and this weekend's a big one for them, admittedly. But check out the stretch run they have coming. You got the 3 games against Milwaukee, huge. Head-to-head battles. You don't get to play these guys as much as usual. But if we get to the All-Star break and Pittsburgh's still solidly in this thing, then we can get serious about them. And that may be unfair. Maybe we should be serious about them now. But you got the 3 games in Milwaukee this week. Next week, you have 4 in Miami. Marlins are a playoff team right now. Then you come home for 6 games against the Padres and the Brewers. That's huge. Then, this is right before the All-Star break. The week before the break, you go to the Dodgers and you go to the Diamondbacks, who are probably 2 of the top 3 teams in the National League. So if we get to the All-Star break and Pittsburgh's still in this thing, we can get serious about the Bucks. As for current odds to win the division, Milwaukee is still the favorite, minus 120. It's a terrible bet. Pittsburgh is plus 600. Not too shabby. They are in first place, plus 600. Vegas ain't buying what the Pittsburgh Pirates are selling. Now, staying in the NL Central, let's see. We've talked about the Cubs, talked about the Brewers and the Pirates. What about the Reds? Don't we have to talk about the Reds? After all, the Reds are only a game out in the NL Central. What are their odds to win the NL Central? They're at plus 900 or so. Cincinnati tonight against Houston. Yes. I guess we can call all these NL Central games a showdown. I mean, anytime an NL Central team is playing, they have a chance to move into first place. So Cincinnati on the road in Houston. The Reds have won 8 of their last 10, kind of corresponding with the Elly De La Cruz arrival. And pitching tonight is another youngster, left-hander Andrew Abbott is going to be on the hill against the Houston Astros. Here's the thing with Abbott. 2 starts, 11 2/3 innings, 0 runs allowed. So tonight will be start number 3, taking on Houston. Now, one thing with Abbott is he has walked 7 of the 47 batters that he's actually faced, which is not a good number. You don't want to be at that number. So he's been a bit lucky with the no earned runs allowed. But he, along with Hunter Green, a couple of others there in that rotation, and certainly in the bullpen, helped them make the times fun a bit in Cincinnati. We'll see if they can carry it over. Going to be on the road in Houston tonight. That is 8:10 for the start. Elly De La Cruz expected to be in the lineup, of course. It will be Abbott taking on J.P. France of the Houston Astros. Let's go to item number 3 on what will matter as we go through this Friday. It's not Major League Baseball. It's not minor league baseball. It is college baseball. Yes, the College World Series will begin today in Omaha, Nebraska. It is an 8-team double elimination format. And there you see the schedule for today and tomorrow. Let's see, we got a couple of games coming up this evening. That is Oral Roberts taking on TCU. You see it there, 8 o'clock Eastern. And then we have Virginia and Florida. I think these tie. All right, 2 o'clock Eastern. Yeah, I was looking at that wrong. Keep it up there for a second. Oral Roberts, TCU at 2 o'clock. Virginia, Florida, then at 7 o'clock Eastern tonight. And tomorrow it's Stanford and Wake Forest. Get going at 2 o'clock, and then 7 o'clock for Tennessee and LSU. Now, in terms of favorites here, Wake Forest is the pick, plus 275. But just behind them, I mean, it's really tight. We got 8 teams in Omaha. Wake Forest is 275. LSU is the second pick at 380. Florida and Virginia, 450. So you got 4 teams, half the field, sitting in that 250 to 450 range. Kind of speaks to how competitive this is expected to be. Again, it begins this afternoon, 2 games today, 2 games tomorrow. One thing to follow if you're not really a college baseball fan, a couple of big names, one playing for LSU, the other one for Florida. Both these guys could be, they will be top 5 picks coming up next month in the Major League Baseball draft. In fact, both guys could go 1-2. The guy that pretty well everybody says is number one plays for LSU. It's a guy named Dylan Cruz. There you see him. Listen to these numbers for Dylan Cruz, by the way. 63 games this year. His OPS is over 1,300 for the season. 17 homers, 67 ribbies, 89 runs, 65 walks to 40 strikeouts for Dylan Cruz. And he is expected to be, he would be your favorite to be the number one overall pick. He's going to be in Omaha starting today all through next week. And then on the Florida side, another outfielder came into the year with a good shot of being a number one or number two pick, but now he's kind of fallen to maybe 3, 4. You see him right there, Wyatt Langford of the Florida Gators. Now his stats are, 58 games. He's hit 373. By the way, Dylan Cruz, his average this year is 434. But Wyatt Langford there of Florida has a 1270 OPS, 18 homers, 48 RBIs, 76 runs. He also has more walks than strikeouts, 51-41. Now, again, this is college baseball. Get to the majors, nobody has more walks than strikeouts, but both these superstars, Cruz for LSU and then Langford for Florida, they got it going on. July 9th, by the way, is the draft date. So what is that, about 3 weeks away? So we'll find out where Cruz and Langford and others do land. First 3 picks. Pittsburgh's at number 1. Number 2 is Washington. Number 3 is Detroit. So all 3 of those teams, no doubt, scouting those 2 big players in the College World Series starting in Omaha today. Let's move to item number 4 on what will matter. A little football. Yeah, why not a little football? Last night in Kansas City, the world champion Kansas City Chiefs received their Super Bowl rings. Pat Mahomes, Travis Kelce, these guys are like, it's like a Step Brothers Part 2, isn't it? With Kelce and Mahomes. They got their rings. Everybody got their rings. Man, look at those rings. Happy times in Kansas City. Happy times. Brought both those rings. I can't tell which is bigger. Can you? I guess the new one's bigger. Now, championship rings fascinate me. Like, these things are outlandish. These things are so insanely over the top. And, you know, this segment is what will matter. The reason I wanted to talk about why will this matter, because the ring was released yesterday, and now everybody else in the sports world is going to have to one-up the Chiefs. That's how this happens. It's like an arms race. Who can make the most extreme, most outlandish, most over-the-top championship ring? The Chiefs ring is so over the top, and it has issued such a challenge to the rest of the sports world. Beat this ring, everybody else. This ring, this Chiefs Super Bowl ring, it got its own hype video. That's right, a hype video, and I'm going to show it to you here on the 5-Pack. Man, that was dramatic. All that for a championship ring. It pops open. How cool is that? How much longer until we just, can make phone calls, send emails, till we can tweet? Like, that's what I want in my championship ring. I want to be able to, I want to, you know how you can now tap your credit card to pay? I want to be able to tap my championship ring to pay for things. Like, really, isn't that the next step? How in the world do you even wear these things? I guess you don't. You bring them out to show the kids, the grandkids once in a while. But there it is, a hype video for the championship ring. Chiefs, by the way, plus 600 to repeat as Super Bowl champs. They are the number one pick, according to the DraftKings sports book, looking at the futures there. Philly is plus 650, by the way. Buffalo is 900. San Francisco's plus 1,000. So those are your top 4 teams. Kansas City, Philadelphia, Buffalo, and San Francisco. The over-under for victories this year by Kansas City is set at 11.5. Can you imagine what next year's ring is going to be? You know, if you're the Chiefs, you're like, whew, we got this thing designed. Give us a few years off. We don't need to win another series. Like, if they got to do this again in 12 months, holy cow. These guys are going to be running out of ideas. Okay, let's go to our 5th and final thing that will matter. I always like to sneak in some soccer, and I get it. Most of you are like, well, European soccer. How about American soccer then? Okay. Don't know if you saw this, but Gregg Berhalter. Yeah, I'm saying that name again. Gregg Berhalter, the guy who was fired like 6 months ago. He's now been rehired as the U.S. men's soccer coach. So for those who don't recall, Berhalter was the head coach for the World Cup team this past year in Qatar. Got them to the round of 16. He was then let go. His contract was up. They did not immediately re-sign him, obviously. There was a big controversy between him and Claudio Reyna, one of the players, and then Reyna's parents got into it, and then there was accusations from both parties back, and it got really slimy, really ugly, kind of like child's play stuff. Anyway, Berhalter was out, and the U.S. commenced to find a new coach. So they went through all these candidates, and 6 months later, it sounds like they're just right back to Gregg Berhalter. So he is expected to be the U.S. men's soccer coach for the next World Cup, which is coming your way in 2026. And by the way, that World Cup will be hosted right here in the United States, alongside Mexico and alongside Canada. So we're about, 3 years away, almost exactly 3 years away from that World Cup coming to North America. As for the U.S. soccer team, they are playing in Las Vegas right now during the CONCACAF Nations League. Last night, they beat Mexico 3-0. That was the semifinals of this Nations League tournament. So they win that game 3-0. But the big news was crazy to think in 2023 you have to do this. But like all these red cards started flying at the end. You know, it's a big rivalry, U.S. and Mexico. So all these guys are getting thrown out. Then a homophobic chant. Seriously, a homophobic chant breaks out in the crowd. They called the game off. This is in Las Vegas between Mexico and the United States. So they called the game off and blew the whistle early with like 5 minutes to go. U.S. wins 3-0. But it was like all the controversy on and off the field. Next game for the U.S. is the championship of the CONCACAF League, Nations League tournament. U.S. is taking on Canada. That will be tomorrow night, 8:30 is the start for that. But again, the news for the U.S. is that Gregg Berhalter is back. Okay, those are your 5 things that will matter. Coming up, we're going to rip this big boy. That is a big boy. Look how big. This is, your eyes are not fooling you. 40 cards, Donruss triple play. 1992. We'll rip it open and see whatever the hell it is. Coming up next right here on the Better Sports Network.
Most shops have the Buffalo Bills at 9-1 or plus 900 to be the Super Bowl champions this year. That's the number that I'm going to be fading. And you know why? Because of some of the things I've seen at the recent mandatory mini camps with the Buffalo Bills, particularly how star wide receiver Stephon Diggs is acting. Now, Diggs was absent for part of Tuesday's mini camp activities. Now, here's an interesting thing. Stephon Diggs just got a contract extension last season. So money is not an issue here, even though it is most of the time in these cases. What is the issue here is apparently his relationship with Josh Allen, a dude that targeted him 154 times last season, and the fact that he doesn't like how they lost last year or how the Buffalo Bills season ended. Yeah, I know there was high expectations last year, just like there's high expectations this year. But here's the thing, Diggs. Just because you don't win, you can't take your ball and go home and start pointing fingers at your quarterback. That's not appropriate. And when I see things like that, I don't think that the team is ready to compete at the highest level. So yes, the Bills will be good again this season, but as long as Diggs and Allen keep this foolishness going on, mainly Diggs, I'm fading the Buffalo Bills. Curious of your thoughts on the Bills coming in to the 2023 season. Leave your comments down below. While you're down there in the comments, check out a special offer from our friends at Fantasy Alarm.
Time now for the Daily Pack Rip on the 5-Pack with Kyle Elfrink.
Welcome back in on this Friday. Final segment for us. We'll be back next Monday, 12 o'clock Eastern, right here on BSN. Do want to remind you, because time is running out, I think this deal is set to expire on Sunday. We've talked about the DraftKings Sportsbook. Right now, if you go to fantasyalarm.com/DraftKings, fantasyalarm.com/DraftKings, when you make a $5 bet to start your account, any $5 bet on whatever you want, they will give you $200 in bonus bet money. So it's $200 into your account. Got to be used on other wagers. But it's tough to beat that deal. And it's only for a couple of more days. fantasyalarm.com/DraftKings. I think this expires on the 18th, which is Sunday, which is Father's Day. Make a $5 bet. They'll throw in $200 in bonus bet cash. So check it out with DraftKings. As we continue here on the 5-pack, we've got one pack that is the size of about 5 packs. This is a 40-card jumbo pack. Today we are ripping open Donruss Triple Play Premier Edition. This might have been the only edition. Let's see. Includes one Gallery of Stars card. No idea what that is. And a Triple Play game card. So I guess we get to play some kind of game. There are 12 Gallery of Star cards. We're going to get somewhere between 7 and 12 according to this. It said card numbers 7 through 12 are randomly packed in the 40-card jumbo packs, which lo and behold we have. Again, as far as I can tell, I'm going to have to use my teeth to probably... Oh, no, I don't. Thing ripped right open. As far as I can tell, this was mainly geared to kids, to youngsters. Oh, man, these are kind of ugly. Pretty ugly. I can see why they're geared to kids. They're very thin. Oh, my God, the back's horrible. We will start off our list, our 40-card pack with Bill Sampson. Bill Sampson, is there a more boring way to start a boring pack than Bill Sampson? Maybe so. Jose Guzman of the Texas Rangers. So we're off to a flying start. How are you going to get kids excited when you lead off with Bill Sampson and Jose Guzman? This is better. Okay. Delino DeShields. Love Delino DeShields. And again, I think every time I see these old Expos uniforms and think about the Expos, it's like, man, all those guys. Marquise Grissom, Larry Walker, Delino DeShields, Rondell White, Pedro Martinez. All these guys were Expos. Man. You see this guy, I think he's still on MLB network television every night. Harold Reynolds, very good second baseman. Pretty good on air, too. I know some people don't like Harold. I do like him. Now we're getting to the stars. Look at that. We got Delino DeShields, Harold Reynolds. Here's a biggie. Mark McGwire. Look how little Mark McGwire is. What the heck happened to him? How did he get so big, huh? Mark McGwire there. Actually bending over. If he tried to do that once he got to the Cardinals, bend over that much, he would have split in two. He would have been out for months with a back injury. Catcher for the Baltimore Orioles, Chris Hoyles, just a very average catcher at best. Here was a pretty average outfielder, Darrell Hamilton of the Milwaukee Brewers. Here's another guy. Wow, we had Mark McGwire. Might as well follow that with Ken Caminiti. He had some issues with roids. Now, I will point out, I have not shown you the back of these baseball cards. They're kind of interesting. It looks like a lot of them have quotes on the back. Some of them have trivia. Some of them have did you knows. Bill Sampson. Bill Sampson, man, what a role model. Check out his quote on the back. School is like every challenge in life. You get out what you put in. Give it your best effort. Thank you, Bill Sampson. That's a great idea. Here's a did you know on the Jose Guzman. Did you know that a regulation baseball weighs approximately 54 ounces and has 108 double stitches? I did not. There's trivia here. Let's see. What actor played Hall of Famer Grover Cleveland Alexander in the movies? I have no idea who this is. Former President Ronald Reagan. Wow. I did learn. So I should not besmirch Donruss Triple Play. I'm learning all kinds of stuff. Here is Roberto Kelly. Roberto Kelly was supposed to be, when he was coming up through the Yankees system, he was set to be a star. Never really became that. Good player, but never really became a star. Leo Gomez, I don't think anybody thought the Orioles third baseman was going to be a star. He was a backup infielder. Here is Juan Samuel, very good baseball player in the 80s, mostly with the Phillies, but played some good baseball throughout. Good hitter, Juan Samuel. First baseman Lee Stevens. Now, if you're saying, wow, Kyle's really flying through this pack, again, we got 40 of these cards to get to. Here's, oh, wow, an insert. We got an insert in our Donruss triple play. This is an awesome action insert. The Hawk. Look at that. That's some awesome action, isn't it? The bat getting split. Check out the lesson on the back. When you're a fan, you have to watch the game carefully. You never know when a foul ball might come your way, or in the case of this photo, a flying bat. Players like Andre Dawson of the Cubs break dozens of bats each season. Okay, I'm starting to understand this was geared toward children. Nowadays, though, we have a net. So even Andre Dawson's bat can't get through the net. Here's Tim Rock Raines, Hall of Famer. Played with the White Sox. Of course, he's known for the Expos. One of my favorites. Here he comes. Oh, Willie McGee. Absolutely one of my favorites. He and Vince Coleman, 1 and 2. And then I moved on to Ellis Burks, but Willie McGee was a stud. Absolute stud. Willie McGee still a coach with the St. Louis Cardinals. Another guy, you see him here in an Indians uniform, but his greatest moment was with the St. Louis Cardinals. Hard-hitting Mark Whitten. Great nickname, and he had one truly great game, a 4-home-run game in Cincinnati, which is really, really hard to do. Mark Whitten is one of those guys who's done it. Larry Walker here with the Expos. I was just talking about the great Expos. You see that? Kind of funny. You see the Expos runner, the Cardinals fielder, and the Cubs emblem. Like the Cubs emblem dominates that photo, yet they have nothing to do with either of the teams or either of the players. That is the old outfield wall at the old Busch Stadium. Here is Julio Franco. We are starting to get some star power in this triple play set. I love it. Okay, here's one I was talking about. Little Hot Shots. Who is this? Little Hot Shot. A lot of these guys, they put in photos of these guys as a kid. Now, you're never going to get this. I would never get this. You're not going to get this, okay? I'll even read you the hit. This Little Hot Shot is shown in his first year of Little League when he was a catcher. He is now a pitcher, and he was an all-star in 1991. He is now a Yankee who used to pitch for the Expos, Cubs, and A's. Who is this Little Hot Shot? I would not get this. I don't expect anybody out there to get Scott Sanderson. If Scott Sanderson was getting a Little Hot Shot photo, then I think everybody did. Man, I'm telling you, I got to check if these cards are worth something. Randy Johnson? Loving it. That's a great photo with the baseball. Holy cow, that's awesome. Love it, Randy Johnson. 6 feet, 10 inches tall. And as the trivia says on the back, if he's 6'10", how many inches tall is he? They even taught you math. You know, I'm starting to like this set a lot more than, especially this one. Now, Heather Klein, our producer, maybe look this up. Gallery of Stars, Ken Griffey Jr. This might be worth something. We might have to check that up. Gallery of Stars, Ken Griffey Jr. Now, there's only 12 Gallery of Stars. This has got to be the best one. I mean, everything was Griffey back in the day. Check it out. Gallery of Stars. Very cool. I might have to set that one aside, see if we get a price on that. Man, we're just rolling through the big names. Tom Glavine, Hall of Famer. Greg Olson, not a Hall of Famer, but a good closer. He had some big save seasons. Greg Maddux, Hall of Famer. My God, this is maybe, again, it took us a 40-card pack. But we're getting all sorts of big names here. I think this would have been the final year for Maddux with the Cubs. And then he went to Atlanta. Jody Reed. Jody Reed. Now stop the presses. Well, maybe I'll get to, well, no, stop the presses. Heather Klein has now told me if this card, I feel like I shouldn't even hold it. If this card were a PSA 10 mint, this card, according to Heather Klein, this card as a 10, it's got to be graded as a 10, sold for over $1,000. That one! I might go down to the card store today and get rid of this sucker. $1,000? I'm going to have to dig in it. Man, might have to send it to Dallas to get graded. Woo! How about that? Maybe I won't be here next week. I'll be living off the Ken Griffey Jr. proceeds of that card. Digging it. I mean, the thing with a 10, there's no border as such. So, like, calling it a 10, I mean, might have to send that sucker out. I love it. Okay. Barry Larkin, Hall of Fame. How many Hall of Famers are we going to get in this pack of cards? Barry Larkin won MVP. Brian Harvey, he was a lot like Greg Olson. We saw Greg Olson earlier with the Orioles. Both these guys, Harvey and Olson, had a couple of 30-save seasons, I think. Here is Steve Finley. I always remember Steve Finley because he was an SIU Saluki. I grew up in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, and Carbondale, Illinois was, hour and a half away. And the Salukis were a pretty good baseball team. And Steve Finley was always the famous Saluki, made it to the big leagues. Alex Cole. Now, Alex Cole, I was mentioning Willie McGee and Vince Coleman earlier. Alex Cole was the next Vince Coleman. You see him here with the Indians. He was traded to the Indians. He was coming up through the Cardinals organization, and he was seen as a real speedster. Didn't reach the levels of Vince Coleman, but was good nonetheless. Here is a very skinny, I mean, my God, he looks like Tristan McKenzie here. Ramon Martinez, my Lord, look how skinny Ramon is. Of course, he's the older brother to Pedro. Ramon was good for a few years in his own right, certainly with the Dodgers, and had some arm issues. And check this out. Look at the trivia, not the trivia, the fact. Ramon's brother, Pedro, was named 1991 Minor League Player of the Year by the Sporting News. I'm telling you, I was kind of down on this triple play thing before the show, but I'm digging these, especially when I get like $1,000 baseball card. How about that? Awesome action. Man, these cards. Look at that. That is awesome action. What do we got here? Got to play at the plate. Looks like he's getting ready. I mean, you don't ever get to see a guy run over the catcher anymore. I guess he didn't run him over. He slid in. Who is this? This card is like having, just read it to you. This card is like having instant replay. Action photos don't get much better than this. Reds outfielder Glenn Braggs, we've seen him before, is the runner, and Kurt Manwaring of the Giants is the catcher. You can see in the third photo, Braggs' hand on home plate and the ball rolling away. He is safe. They're right. He's safe. Tom Foley. He was not one of those Expos. That was legendary. Kevin Napier. This is back when the Royals were producing pitchers like crazy. You get David Cohn and Kevin Napier and Brett Saberhagen and Tom Gordon. And the Royals were they were like the Dodgers of nowadays. Pitcher. Tim Burke, Mets. Next up is, this is a great photo of Eric Hansen. This photo of Eric Hansen's a keeper because we all know what just happened to Eric Hansen's pitch. Flying over the left field wall. Look at it. Man, he looks like that ball got blasted off of Eric Hansen. Good stuff. Another great, awesome action. This is my favorite done, maybe. Check this out. That's some awesome. The hell's going on here? The play at the plate is one of the most exciting plays in baseball. The catcher has to field the throw while the runner is trying to knock him over to score. The photo on the front of the card shows Astros Steve Finley crashing into Gary Carter. And as the card says, wow. I dig it. Hey, I'm starting to figure out why kids maybe got into baseball. Bobby Thigpen, what do you have, 57 saves one year with the White Sox? John Kruk. What happened to John Kruk? Why is he not on the broadcast anymore? What happened? He used to be all over ESPN. Mickey Tettleton was famous for wearing a Fruit Loops t-shirt. And then finally, card number 40, Steve Bouchard. That's a boring way to end this very exciting pack. A pack that gave us this guy. Gallery of Stars. I'm going to try to sell this weekend. Anybody want it? We'll see you Monday on the 5-pack, 12 Eastern.